On September 4th, 1998, Henry Ray was admitted into Williamson Medical Center near Nashville, Tennessee, for minor surgery on a torn rotator cuff. It was to be a simple, routine procedure. No one, not even his wife, Suzanne, was concerned that anything could go wrong.
And I leaned over and kissed his cheek, and I said goodbye, and I told him I'd see him in the room when he got through.
The operation was going smoothly until suddenly, without warning, the unexpected occurred.
I had identified the tendon and was getting ready to sew it to the bone, and out of the blue, the anesthesiologist said,
"Guys, hold up a minute. We got a problem. He's in V-fib."
Henry's heart had stopped beating, and everyone in the OR immediately moved into code blue. Dr. Thomas's first assistant, Brian Lewis, recalls the chaos inside the room.
All of a sudden, when everything went wild, I started compressions or pumping on Mr. Ray's chest.
But when he didn't respond, they tried stimulation. Nurse Lori Hargrove was the surgery coordinator that day.
He was flatlined for quite a while, and we continued CPR, and nothing seemed to work. He kept bouncing back and forth, but he never responded.
doctors normally will do a CPR for approximately 30 or 45 minutes. After about 45 minutes, it seemed rather hopeless. It wasn't like he was responding or was trying to come back at all.
While the OR team continued to fight for Henry's life, Dr. Thomas, a close friend of the Rays, went to tell Suzanne what was happening.
She, of course, thought I was all finished and was all smiling.
Well, that was quick.
Oh, my God. I don't know how to tell you this, Suzanne.
He started crying, and he said, "Suzanne, oh, God, Suzanne, Henry's heart has stopped on the operating table. We're working on him, but it doesn't look good, and we have got to pray." And I said, "Yes, we have got to pray."
When Dr. Thomas returned to the operating room, he was told that nothing had changed and that CPR should be stopped.
And Dr. Thomas said, "No, absolutely not." He said, "We're not stopping yet."
But after an hour, there was little hope of reviving him.
His skin was blue. He was cold to the touch. I'd never seen anybody be out that long that ever came back.
Suzanne, meanwhile, was waiting alone and praying when Drew Thigpen, an associate pastor from her church, stopped by.
Hey.
Oh, Drew.
How are you?
Thank you for coming.
I encouraged her, "Suzanne, we've got to get in touch with some other people."
Kenneth, it's Drew.
In a period of 15 minutes, there were phone calls to our friends, to other church members, and so they immediately came to the hospital.
People were praying in the lobbies. Others were at church. There was a unified effort of prayer that was going up for Henry.
My prayer that day over and over was, "Lord, I know that you love Henry as much as I love him, but I need him here with me because we have only been married 5 years and you gave him to me, and I'm asking you to touch his heart and let him live for me." And I prayed that over and over and over again.
But after an hour and 30 minutes of desperately trying to revive him, the monitors attached to Henry's body continued to show no signs of life.
Clear.
After 90 minutes of CPR, medicine, pacemakers put into his heart, the cardiologist told Dr. Thomas, "We need to stop. We can't do no more." And I'm still pumping, you know. I haven't been told to quit. And so I look at Dr. Thomas, and he's just sitting there looking at me. He says, "What do you want me to do?"
After 90 minutes without any sign of a heartbeat, they finally admitted defeat.
We've lost him.
When you quit, you don't just kind of walk off and go your own way. I guess we were all just emotionally just very drained, and we all just stood there, almost in disbelief that this had really happened.
And then the quiet in the room was interrupted by an incredible sound.
His EKG monitor just started going beep, beep, beep.
There's a pulse here, Paul. He's alive.
And his heartbeat came back without any human intervention, without any of the fancy medicines. Despite that whole hour and a half doing everything right, we couldn't do it. And it was really only after we stopped, when nothing else was being done, that his heart began to beat again. But there were tears of joy in that whole operating room, truly tears of joy.
Henry's wife, Suzanne, was deep in prayer when Dr. Thomas brought her the wonderful news.
Suzanne, I have great news.
And he said, Henry is alive. It's guarded, but he's alive. Dr. Thomas was crying. He was so emotionally changed, he canceled the rest of his surgeries for that day.
Meanwhile, Henry remained in a semi-conscious, guarded condition in the intensive care unit.
Patient having loss of oxygen for this extended period of time.
He said, now, I have to tell you that Henry could be brain damaged. He could have kidney failure. There's a lot of complications that he may have.
I heard Dr. Thomas telling Suzanne he can have brain damage, he can be paralyzed. We absolutely do not know. And I thought, are they talking about me?
It wouldn't be until the next day that Suzanne would realize just how miraculous his recovery had been.
I just bent over him and I said, oh, honey, I love you so much. And he says, I love you too. So he had perfect speech, and it was great. So he was whole, and he was fine. He didn't have any complications whatsoever.
No one who witnessed what happened that day will ever forget the moment when the tragedy of an unexpected death was transformed by the miracle of life.
I was an emergency room nurse for 11 years before I started working in surgery and did hundreds of codes during that time. And I had never seen one as far gone as he was to ever come back, let alone come back to have no brain damage, no organ damage, to be completely normal again.
How are you feeling?
I would say this is as true a miracle as you'll ever see. I know everybody has their own stories about a miracle, but I really think this is it. I think this is the #1 miracle that he ever did.